In a year that has been so improbable, the impossible has happened.
A shot on Elo. Good! The Bulls winning!
You know what time it is.
The most amazing, sensational, dramatic.
Oh, blocked by James! LeBron James with a rejection.
Holy cow! Oh my God! I don't believe it! It just continues! You believe in miracles?
Do you know what time it is?
I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence.
Welcome back into another episode of the Sports Hour. This is Mitch-Mo.
And this is Dallen. Wow. An impressive intro from Mitch-Mo today as we start off this podcast, the Sports Hour, back again for another episode. It is Wednesday, my dudes. It is the final day of May, Mitch. May 31st. We are recording this on a Wednesday night live on YouTube and Twitter, as we do every time we do this podcast. And if you are tuning in live tonight, hello, thanks for joining. If you're listening to the podcast on your podcast feed, welcome. Glad to have you in. We've got a fun show today, Mitch. Obviously, basketball's at the forefront with the NBA Finals getting underway tomorrow night on June 1st. We'll preview those, make our picks for the NBA Finals. We got a couple top fives, and then on the back end, very excited for this. We are tier ranking all 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL next season. So we got to do it together too. So it'll be a bit of debate, bit of discussion. We'll see if we agree very much, but it'll be a fun podcast today. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. I'm doing really good. I'm just it's been a long work day, so I'm excited to sit down, finally talk some sports with my best friend. This is a good unwinding moment for us. So
yes, it is. Mitch has been grinding for you people. You know, someone's got to put bread on the table to keep this podcast going. And it's just Mitch's responsibility. I don't do anything. It's only Mitch. So he's working hard to keep this podcast up and running, and we appreciate his efforts.
I'm a blue collar podcaster. What can I say?
We just put Mitch in a hamster wheel, and he's got to run for at least 10 hours a day, or else the website goes down. It's just it's how technology works. So
no, it is. It's incredible.
Someone has to do it.
My fat ass could run for 10 hours. Is what's really more impressive. But
oh man, no, it's we're gonna have a lot of fun tonight as we always do, and again, grateful to have you along with us for the ride, as always. So Mitch. First off, you were doing the intro, and I don't know what sparked me. You know what? I do know what it was. You were doing the intro, and I was thinking to myself, Mitch is impressing with the length that he's going on this intro. And then I thought, oh, the neighbor's going to hear it. And then I thought of Linda, and then I remembered like a week ago that you found out that Linda is moving. Your best neighbor, a friend of the podcast, Linda. I mean, we had a search party out for her at one point, but she's out of here.
Linda, I don't know if we got sad music to play or not. I mean,
I don't know. At least I don't think I got sad music. What do I have?
Like, do we have Boys to Men? Like, how do I say goodbye? Like, I need something along those lines. R.I.P. Linda. I mean, she's not dead.
Yeah.
Like,
no,
she's not dead. No,
yes,
she's moving. But I was sad, man. I'm losing my awesome neighbor Linda, who she's gone already. Actually, I have no neighbor now. So
really, she's already out.
She's gone.
Wow.
Adios.
Man,
almost like if it was in the middle of the night, like the Baltimore Colts moving out of Baltimore over to Indianapolis. She was like the Ursays, just out in the middle of the night. See you later. I'm out of here.
She's like General Washington crossing the Potomac at night, just nobody noticed, just out of there, sneaky. Wow.
Moment of silence for Linda. R.I.P. Linda. R.I.P. Linda.
Yeah, we will miss her. She got back from Mexico safe. That was a whole escapade.
Yeah,
She did survive that. And we'll see who Mitch gets his neighbors next. And Mitch is in Chico, California, in a college town. He's hoping it's not some 20-year-olds just complete jerks, but or some Chads, but we'll see. We'll see. Maybe be another nice old lady that can live across the way from you.
That's what I'm hoping for, to be honest with you. That's what I'm really hoping for.
Love it. Had to shout out Linda there.
No, thank you for bringing that up. Yeah. It's been a rough week for you, boy. You know, coping with the loss.
You're in mourning.
I'm mourning for someone who hasn't passed. Yes.
Oh man. All righty, Mitch. Let's jump into this podcast with NBA playoffs and the NBA finals again. As I mentioned, we are at the doorstep tomorrow night, June 1st. I will be in a Trolley Wing Co. eating my weight in wings and enjoying the finals, as is the tradition in the Graf household. We celebrate game one of the finals with wings, and so that's what we'll be doing, Caitlin and I, tomorrow night to watch this finals between the Nuggets and the Heat. And before we get into that matchup, Mitch, let's just look back at the conference finals. And
I do have to say, though, because I have had the privilege of partaking in your Graf family tradition of wings during the finals. Best finals tradition, I think that's around right now.
It's a good one.
It's a really good one. So,
and you know what? Caitlin doesn't care about basketball at all, the NBA at all. Like,
she's in it for the wings. So I get it. Yeah.
But like literally, come April, once the playoffs start, she's like, "All right, so when do the finals start again? Like when are we doing our wings again?" Like she's like in. I love it. So yes,
right.
That's what we'll be doing tomorrow night. But let's start with the series, the conference final series that was least interesting. That was the Western Conference Finals between the number 1 seed Nuggets and the 7 seed Los Angeles Lakers, and the Nuggets taking care of business easily, a sweep of the Lakers, 4 games. Nuggets advanced to their first NBA Finals in team history. So obviously a historic moment for the Denver Nuggets franchise, and pulling off an impressive sweep of the Lakers. They just dominated them. They just overpowered them with offense. And the Lakers' calling card in the back half of the season and through their playoff run was that defense and their ability to sort of hunker down and really sort of control and grind out the game, get to the free throw line, wrap up rebounds. That's what they were doing. And none of that worked against the Nuggets. The Nuggets just blitzed them. They had no answer for Jokic. They had no answer for anybody. And other than a close game 2 and obviously a game 4 in which LeBron put it all on the line and, and tried to stave off the sweep, Nuggets pretty much handled the Lakers in this series, and I was obviously very surprised by that and extremely impressed by the Nuggets in that series.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot like what I had talked about the last time we had discussed this matchup. The Lakers weren't going to have the opportunity to control the pace like they had in the previous series against the Grizzlies and the Warriors, right? They didn't have that opportunity to slow the game down and play their game because the Nuggets played a very similar game to them, and they do it better, right? And so offensively, they were just going to get outmatched. I know the Lakers, like you had mentioned, really had their trademark the back half of the year had been hunkering down on defense, controlling tempo, which is exactly what the Nuggets did. The Nuggets just happened to do it better. So this was I had picked the Nuggets in 6. I thought the Lakers were going to put up a little bit more of a fight, have some of those games where, AD does one of those 40-20 games and, they're going to, or, someone's going to step up, whether it's Vanderbilt or LeBron or someone's going to step up and have a big night. And that just didn't really happen for them. The Nuggets really just were in control from the word go, even in the close matchup. So, good solid win for the Nuggets. I think the right team won. I think the better team won. The Nuggets, congratulations. You are back in the NBA Finals for I think it's the first time in forever.
I think it's their first time ever. I don't think they've ever made the NBA Finals until this year. So this is history for the Nuggets. And yeah, I think the Lakers just kind of ran out of steam, right? Whatever momentum they were riding through that playoff, it just kind of came to an end against a really good team. The number one offense in the NBA in the regular season was the Denver Nuggets. And yeah, I mean, they put up 132 points in game one. I mean, came out and just was like, yep, this is what it's going to be like this series. And yeah, didn't let up. Impressive for Denver.
It's hard with a roster too that's so split with with veterans and young pieces, when you're arguably your most important veteran piece is like 37, 38 years old in LeBron James. It's hard to carry a team in that sense. AD just hasn't been able to do that. So I mean, the Lakers, they had a tough draw. They had a tough draw with Denver, I think.
Yeah, well, and the role players didn't show up in the ways that they were in those first two series, right? You didn't have Austin Reeves going for 30. You didn't have Hachimura going for 30, right? You didn't have those moments that supplemented LeBron, supplemented when AD wasn't. And you didn't see that at all in the Denver series. So again, yeah, Nuggets advancing, and they'll take on the Heat. Let's get to that Eastern Conference Finals, which was a great series, as we anticipated. It didn't look like it at the beginning, though, as Miami jumped out to that 3-0 start, winning the first two games in Boston, taking the 3-0 lead. No team's ever come back from a 3-0 deficit. It's like, all right, Denver's going to sweep LA. Miami's going to sweep Boston. And then we're just moving right on to the finals, apparently. But Boston said, hold on a minute. We're not going away quite yet. And they were able to reel off three impressive wins. Game 6 in particular, the Derek White put back with 0.2 seconds. I mean, just an incredible sequence at the end of the game, an incredible moment. It hits a little differently after Celtics lose game 7 at home in embarrassing fashion. Just it looked flat and came out with no effort. Miami just handled them on the road in game 7, and Miami advances in 7 games in this series, just as you predicted, my friend. I had Boston in 7, you had Miami in 7. We knew this was going to come down to the TD Garden, game 7 on the line. And it was Miami who showed up despite blowing the 3-0 lead and letting the series get back tied. Jimmy buckets and that Miami team stepped up. I mean, Caleb Martin stepped up. Like, we could really be honest. Like, this team stepped up to get it done in a big way.
Caleb Martin was borderline MVP of the series. I mean, this guy
almost won he almost won the award. He was one vote shy of Jimmy.
He was fantastic in that series. And you know what? The Derek White play is probably going to be the best forgotten play in NBA playoffs history. I mean, that was so clutch. So clutch. Yeah. I was watching it live. And I thought, watching it, in full speed, there's no way he got that off. There's no way. And then when you slow it down and you look, it leaves his hand just in time. Like, holy smokes, he did get that off. And I thought the series was over. Going into the game, going back to TD Garden, game 7, Celtics at home, riding the momentum, the high of the 3 straight wins, the big emotional win in game 6. It had all the makings for that. Jason Tatum rolls the ankle early in the first quarter. In fact, like the first offensive possession of the game, he rolls the ankle. He's hobbled the rest of the night. Jaylen Brown just was completely off. 8 turnovers, which is a career high, the most by a Celtic since Larry Bird in 1981. Most turnovers committed in a game by a Celtic since Larry Bird, 1981. The Heat just absolutely dominated them in game 7. You could point to Jimmy buckets. You could point to a multitude of things, but Hemi Butler,
buckets.
He is him. Jimmy Butler is. I've said it for the last few years. He's a stone cold killer when it comes to crunch time, and he showed it again in game 7.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what it came down to. And, I think for the Celtics, it's a disappointing end, obviously, after that great comeback in the series. But it's a lot of the same issues they had in that final series last year against the Warriors. It was just like Tatum was there, but Brown just didn't get enough. They were inefficient. They turned it over too much. And when they didn't hit the 3, they were never going to win. If they couldn't hit over 36%, they were never going to win. And that was the case in this series. So, impressive for Miami to have those 3 straight losses and hunker down in game 7 on the road and say, no, we're not doing this. We're going to the finals. And so pressed by that.
Very, very quickly before we move on, because this has been a topic of discussion now, because the Celtics have now been in the Eastern Conference Finals for how many years in a row is this? Like, was it 3?
I think it's
3 years?
3 now in a row.
3 in a row. With the same group of guys, nothing has changed. They've fallen short every time. Jaylen Brown is up for a supermax, right? He's going to be looking at like a $295 million contract. He's got 1 year left on his deal. Is Jaylen Brown worth the supermax, or do they need to make a change to make the push to get to that finals appearance?
Well, I think those are 2 different questions. I think, is he worth the supermax? Depends on what team. Should the Celtics keep him if they want to win an NBA Finals? No. I think if they want to win a finals, they've got to find a different running mate for Jason Tatum, because I think they're too similar and their weaknesses are too similar, and they get in these situations where they're both ineffective and there's nothing else that can be done. You need more of a balance on that team. So they should be trying to shop Jaylen Brown. I think they should be trying to go get Dame. I think they should be trying to shop to Portland to trade Jaylen Brown to Portland. And then Portland can use that number 3 pick to pair with Jaylen Brown and start building something anew. And they should go trade Damian Lillard to Boston. That would be the type of player alongside Jason Tatum. Perfect pairing, much more of a balanced pair. And that gives them an increased odds to win the finals. So I do think he could be worth the max for the right team, but not for Boston. And if they want to win a finals, they got to separate this pair. And Tatum is obviously that guy. So Brown's got to go.
I like that. A lot. Get you in an NBA office, my friend. You in an NBA front office.
I mean, if you want to win rings, I'm just saying. But,
call your boy over here.
All righty, Mitch. NBA Finals again. Nuggets and Heat. The 1 seed Denver. The 8 seed Miami. And here we are. A great matchup. And a matchup in which Denver, as the 1 seed, is heavily favored. ESPN's BPI odds gives Denver an 89% chance of winning this series. In fact, in game 1 at home, Denver has a 9-point. They're favored by 9 points in game 1 at home, which is a lot for the NBA final. I know it's the NBA final, and I know they're at home and they're the 1 seed, but 9 points is a lot in an NBA Finals game when you're looking at Timothy buckets and the Miami Heat on the other side. So clearly, the numbers and Vegas and everything is telling us Denver should win and should, sort of cakewalk in this series. They should be able to handle this series. But I think this is a really interesting series because you do have a more talented team, a better team, quote unquote, in Denver as the 1 seed, proven best offense in the NBA, rolling through the playoffs. They've lost 3 playoff games in 3 series. Only 3 playoff games they've dropped this whole playoff. So clearly Denver's it. But this is their first finals appearance as a franchise, let alone as this unit. None of these guys, besides KCP, right? Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, none of these guys have even played in a finals, right? Jokic, Murray, MPJ, Aaron Gordon, Mike Malone, the head coach. This is all their first time rolling through this thing. And guess who has experience in this dance? Jimmy Butler and this Miami Heat. Not only has Eric Spoelstra been with the Heat for over a decade and won an NBA Finals with LeBron, but this team went to the finals a few years ago against LA with pretty much this iteration of the team. The core of this team is exactly the same. And they've got some additional pieces that help with experience. So you have a team that's should be the underdog, but has vastly superior experience and should be more comfortable at this stage. So I think this is much more of an even contest than these odds are giving it, giving the Heat a chance here. I think this is a much more even matchup based on all those factors. What do you think?
You just can't count Miami out. I'm going off gut. I'm going off gut.
Yeah.
Like you came in with all the right analytics and all the right stuff. Going off gut, which is kind of where I'm on brand here. You can't count Miami out. You just can't. Jimmy Butler he's we've seen Jimmy Butler the last few years, how he's just absolutely turned it on when he needs to, right?
Mhm.
And he's fallen short a couple times. This year feels different with him. This year feels like he knows that there is unfinished business. No matter, they could be up 3-0. And he's like, nah, I'm not putting on cruise control. We're gonna drive the spike right now, and we're gonna sweep him in 4. And I mean, granted, I wish we would have saw that a little bit more in the last series, but give me a scare there, Jimmy. But this just feels different for the Heat. I love that. I love to see the Nuggets there. Jokic is an MVP, a top 5 player in the league, an all-world team leader when it comes to leading a group of men. This guy knows how to lead a team to the promised land, and he's got his opportunity right here in front of him. I think this really comes down to will, and it comes down to the will of Jimmy Butler to will this 8 seed into an NBA Finals championship, and the will of Jokic to finally get the job done and prove that he can be a championship winning superstar in this league, not just a superstar on a very good team. And that's where I feel like this is going to that's going to be the key matchup for me. Though they may not be guarding each other, who's going to outball who in this matchup, Jokic or Butler?
It's a legacy series for both those players. I mean, imagine if Jimmy Butler can walk away saying, I was an NBA champion, with how good he was, and, in such a complicated career, right? And all the different places he went and left a lot of places on bad terms, but to be able to stamp NBA champion on his resume would be huge for him. And on the other side, for Jokic, I mean, there's people that still doubt him, even though he's a 2-time MVP. There will people who look back on him in history and say, was he really that good? Was it just all padded stats? But if he's an NBA champion, on top of that, if he's won that ring, then that argument, you can't really make that argument. It changes the conversation around him. You can now be in that conversation for one of the greats if you're Jokic. So I think for both these players, it's a huge opportunity in this series to really cement their legacies in the NBA.
And that's where I think it means more to Jimmy, is because he has been an elite player in this league that has been overshadowed his entire career by the LeBrons, the Steph Currys, the James Hardens, the Kevin Durants, the Kawhi Leonards. He has been constantly, the Paul Georges, he has been constantly overshadowed by players that he's just as good as, but he hasn't been in as good of a situation as they have been in. So this is his opportunity to shine and make the point like, hey, look, I am one of the elite players of my time right here, right now. I think this might mean a little bit more to him. And Dallen, if I can, I'll just submit my pick for these finals right now. I'm going with Miami in 7.
Okay.
I'm going with Miami in 7. This is Jimmy's time. And Jimmy Butler might be my favorite player in the NBA right now. And it's because of his, dare I say it, Mamba mentality.
Yep.
Mamba mentality. He knows when to strike, and he strikes hard, and he doesn't let up until the job is done. I'm going with Miami in 7.
Yeah. Mitch, I wisely, like 8 months ago, picked Miami to be the NBA champions of the 2022-2023 NBA season.
Do it.
And I would be a fool now. I've never wavered on that. on that take
until now.
Until until all the times I didn't pick Miami to win their series, like last series. But now I feel assured, Mitch, that that take back in October was correct, and that Miami is going to win this thing. I'm with you. It just feels like they are the team destined to do this. Their experience in losing the finals in the bubble to the Lakers, Eric Spoelstra's, and I think this is going to be the biggest thing for me. Eric Spoelstra versus Mike Malone is the biggest matchup in this series to me, by far. It's not on the court. It is those two guys. And my money is on Spoelstra to make the right moves, make the right decisions when he needs to turn momentum in the series when he needs to and in a game and manage that correctly and allow Jimmy to beat Jimmy when that needs to happen. And Miami is going to take care of business. I've got the Heat in 6. They get it done in Miami, Mitch. They don't mess it up like they did last series. They don't let it go back to a game 7 on the road to have to win it. They get game 6 of Miami and they finish it there. I've got Miami in 6. And we both got the Heat to be the NBA Finals champions in 2023. 8 seed Miami. What a crazy story.
What a wild story.
Yeah.
What a wild story.
Love
and
it.
I think you bring up a great point. Eric Spoelstra, one of the great coaches of our time. I mean, kind of I don't know. You can't call him the Pat Riley or the Phil Jackson of our time, but you kind of can because of what the parity in the NBA that there is nowadays, where there's not a bunch of repeat winners, right? Eric Spoelstra is one of the great coaches of his era. He hasn't won since LeBron was in Miami. It feels like he's due now to beat the team that just knocked out LeBron. Feels like he is due right now to get another one. And you know what? Eric Spoelstra, though they're an 8 seed, might be the best coach in the NBA, in my opinion. And I feel like him and Mike Malone's going to be really challenged to outcoach Eric Spoelstra. And I don't know if Mike Malone's really there yet. Eric Spoelstra's just he's another level of coaching. Yep.
I think experience will pay off in this series, and we shall see. It should be competitive, and cannot wait. That's our picks for the NBA Finals. Let us know who you think is going to win the NBA Finals this year. Do you have Denver winning their first NBA title, or do you have Jimmy Buckets in the Miami Heat taking it? The Larry O'Brien Trophy home this year. Let us know if you're watching live on Twitter and YouTube. Let us know in the comments. If you're listening to the podcast, shoot us a message. Let us know who you're picking in this series. Mitch, that's it for the NBA playoffs. We've got a top 5, a couple top 5s today. This will be good.
You are going to join me in the top 5s today, Dallen. You got a top 5 of your own. I do want to shout out really quick if Nana and Dan are watching with Kenzie. How you guys doing?
Hello.
Thanks for tuning in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're gonna get into the top 5s here, Dallen. And you know what? College football season is quickly approaching. You and I both love college football.
It's May, Mitch. It's approaching for us though. We haven't stopped.
It's I cannot wait for football season to get here. I can't wait anymore. College football season, though, is upon us. And, Dallen, there are a lot of programs that are going to have something to prove. They're going to have something to prove in 2023. And that's why on this week's edition of Mitch-Mo's Top 5 List of the Week, we're going to be doing the top 5 college football programs with something to prove in 2023. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. And this is really in no particular order. So we're just going to kind of run through them. I do have some honorable mentions, though. I do want to start with North Carolina.
Okay.
North Carolina as a team. Matt Brown's been there. It seems like they've been on the precipice of being a contender for a long time, and stuff is just falling apart. But North Carolina got there. I got Alabama. Probably their least impressive roster on paper in a long time, over the last decade at least. They're going to be in the honorable mentions. Clemson, Dabo Swinney. Does he still got it? Are they still going to be a powerhouse in that ACC and continue to be a perennial playoff contender? LSU, another one. Chip Kelly over there with his fake Southern accent. Do you think that he can get it done in LSU? And then probably the biggest one of the honorable mentions, one I wanted to throw in the top 5 was Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And I do wanted to just stake my claim on this, is if Oklahoma doesn't turn this around this year and really make themselves prevalent once again in their last year in the Big 10 or Big 12, excuse me, they could be the next Nebraska.
Ooh.
They could be the next Nebraska. As they go over to the SEC, they face stiffer competition, and they're just not able to keep up with everyone else. Oklahoma seems like
Yeah.
if they don't have it done in the next 1 or 2 years, we're looking at a program that is consistently looking at 5-6 win seasons and not able to pull in the recruiting class that they should be. But
I like that. I like that take, Mitch. I'm with you there. That's great.
so I know we had talked about that before this show, and I
That was
kept
the
it a
one.
secret.
I didn't
That was
see
the
that.
one.
That was
Yeah.
perfect. That's perfect.
So-
And literally, it's so true. So true.
So we're just gonna start from the top, and we're just gonna work our way down. Usually we go from 5 to 1. We'll just start from the top, 1 to 5. So the first team I got on here, Notre Dame, a school with something to prove. They're in an interesting situation. I mean, this team started off really bad. Was it 0-3 to start the year last year? With Marcus Freeman, taking on his first season in the head coaching responsibilities. They wound up finishing 9-4 at number 18 in the nation, which is fine. But this is Notre Dame. This is one of the premier programs in the nation, with a lot of transfers that are leaving, a lot of transfers that are coming in. Is Marcus Freeman able to be an integral part in leading and building that program back to what it once was, and not slipping and falling off the cliff where you're looking at a 6-7 win season? Because I feel like that would be a devastating blow for Notre Dame, especially as an independent. Independents can really slip and fall that quick. Notre Dame is on that slippery edge right now, and I feel like if they don't really give themselves a good 2-year trajectory, a good 2-year plan, Marcus Freeman's going to be out, and they're going to be looking at a serious rebuild within that program over the next 2 years. So Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman really as a whole has something to really prove in 2023.
Yeah, I think that's great because, I mean, they definitely record-wise, they turn it around and it looks better at the end of the season when you see that 9-4 record. But, like, they got some – I mean, they beat Syracuse and Clemson in back-to-back weeks while both those teams were ranked, and both those teams were so overranked at that point and were clearly not – I mean, Clemson was ranked number 5 in the country in November. Are you kidding me? When at any point last season was Clemson a top 5 team, let alone in November? So Notre Dame beats them, and all of a sudden, you get overinflated, you move up the rankings. I don't think that Notre Dame team was a 9-win team at all last year. I think they were more like a 6 or 7 win team. So yeah, I'm right there with you. They definitely have something to prove. Sam Hartman coming in from Wake Forest to be the new quarterback at Notre Dame, right? What does he look? But they lost Tommy Rees, the offensive coordinator who heads to your Crimson Tide. So there is going to be some changes in South Bend and some progress that needs to be made in year 2 of Marcus Freeman. That's a great pick.
I mean, and timing of losses is everything. If they didn't lose that game in November, they lose that game in September, the season's over. Like the season's over. They can't rebound from that. So, that's where I got Notre Dame at number 1. Number 2, Texas Longhorns. This really feels like a team that's like, if not now, when? They don't have any projection forward. I know they got Quinn Ewers. They brought in Arch Manning. Bijan Robinson is gone though. This just seems like a team they bring in so many great, pretty decent recruiting classes. They just can never really put it together. And I don't know if it's a institutional thing with Texas, if that's going to be their issue. But Texas is really at the point right now, especially as they're going to be leaving the Big 12 and moving over to the SEC, where the competition is going to be a lot stiffer. If not now, when? And right now, at this point, it seems like never. It seems like never for Texas, especially as they leave the Big 12 and go into the SEC. So they definitely have something to prove and something to step up and prove in 2023.
Yeah, and in that last year in the Big 12, I mean, the goal has to be to win the conference. It can't be any less than that, right? For Texas in their final year. I mean, they should be the preseason favorite in the Big 12 with Quinn Ewers, who people are even discussing as a draftable quarterback in next year's draft, which, like, let's stop this. Okay. Like, it's May 31st. I'm not in on this. Can we see some more like game film of this kid before we start, talking about him as a top 10 quarterback?
All we had was high school tape off of him. That's all we had was high school tape off of him.
It's ridiculous. But yeah, Texas, it needs to happen this year. They need to win 10 plus games. They need to win the Big 12. They really should be in the playoff discussion, right? That should be the goals. And that's the goal every year for Texas, and they never reach it. So I don't think they can with Steve Sarkisian at the helm, in my opinion. But, if there is a year, it has to be this one. I'm right there with you. Lots to prove in 2023.
A ton. And Steve Scars, yeah, a ton to prove in 2012. Number 3, maybe a little bit of a surprise, but I got the University of Washington.
Yeah.
University of Washington. Can Kalen DeBoer build off the great first year that he had at UW? This was the first time that they had posted 11 games since Chris Peterson led the program to 12 wins in a college football playoff appearance in 2016. This is a team that seems like they're on the right track, right? We saw them consistently in the top 25. At one point, a potential contender for the playoffs. Washington seems like a team that's trending in the right direction. The big question for me is Michael Penix Jr. Can he continue to dodge the injury bug that plagued him in Indiana? Can he continue to dodge it? He stayed healthy all last year, and he played fantastic. Some people thought he was going to declare. People thought he was fantastic. Can Michael Penix continue to dodge that injury bug and play really, really well going into the 2023-2024 season? A guy that threw for 4,641 yards, 31 touchdowns last year. A lot to prove on Kalen DeBoer's part, but a lot to prove also on Michael Penix's part to prove like, yes, I am one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and I am worthy of one of those top picks in next year's NFL draft because I am that guy. So Washington, for me, a team that I think is going to win 10 games next year, but I feel like at their peak is totally capable of winning 11 or 12.
Yeah, I mean, Washington should be clearly in the Pac-12 title conversation. Will probably be a dark horse playoff contender, right, on early preseason lists. Penix is certainly going to be in the Heisman watch at the beginning of the season, and rightfully so with what they were able to do in the first year of Kalen DeBoer with that 11-win season. But yeah, you're right. They got to prove it's not a flash in the pan, that it wasn't a fluke, right? That this is real. DeBoer is legit. Washington is legit. Penix is legit. I'm glad he came back. I'm glad he came back for this other season to prove that and to build upon that and really do something. Obviously, they weren't able to even make it to the Pac-12 title game last year. I'm sure it's a disappointment for them. So, and besides Penix, their pair of wide receivers, Romeo Aduns and Jalen McMillan, are extremely talented. They have a great skill position players around them. So the weapons are all there. The talent is all there. Can they just repeat that? Are they really as good as they looked at the end of last season? We shall find out. It's a great pick.
Can you believe it? I'm putting my faith in a left-handed quarterback.
I know. Crazy
stuff. Crazy stuff. Number 4 on the list, I got Texas A&M. Texas A&M. You got Jimbo Fisher there. He talked about having the best recruiting class in the nation last year, and then just completely shit the bed. I mean,
of course.
If arguably of all 5 of these teams that I have on here, they have the most to prove because you bring in the top tier coach, right? The top tier program builder in Jimbo Fisher, and you hype your own self up. Like other people are hyping you up, but you're hyping yourself up, and then you don't go out and perform. Texas A&M has a lot to prove. And I think if they fall short once again, sweep them under the rug. Jimbo Fisher is just another coach in college football, and we're really not worried about Texas A&M for years to come. We're really not worried about them because they just have not lived up to the hype that they were supposed to be. This is a make it or break it year for Texas A&M.
Yeah, I mean, they were the number 6 team in the country in the preseason AP poll. I mean, that was just, and we talked about it on this podcast at the time. And we told you that was absurd and don't believe that. And that's not true. And I mean, they went 5-7 last year. This was clearly not that good of a team. And I mean, they had so many questions at quarterback. They threw 3 different guys out there and none of them worked. Can they solve that this year? I think they got Joey Calzada they're going to be the quarterback this year. So, we'll see what that. Yeah, I don't have much confidence in them, but they certainly have something to prove. And we were discussing this in our show prep today, just how it feels like the SEC is weaker this year. It's not, with Levis and Richardson and a lot of the talent that has left the conference and teams sort of resetting. There's sort of an opening outside of, Bama, Georgia, LSU at the top for somebody else to creep up there and be competitive. Like it could be open for Texas A&M. They have clearly the talent with the recruiting talent they bring in. So why not them? If it's going to be this year, it should happen. But I mean, I'm not going to believe it will, but this is a good pick. They certainly need to prove it this year.
It's a believe it when you see it type situation with them. Absolutely.
Well, I just want to add one thing as I just thought of this, but with Texas and Oklahoma coming in too in the future, that whole stake that you had on Texas and in that area in the SEC is gone. You're not the only Texas team in the SEC anymore in a year or so. If Texas and Oklahoma come in and you never proved that you were anything, they are immediately tier below Texas. Even in the SEC as a new team, Texas A&M is immediately a tier below Texas, right? I mean, they haven't proven anything in the SEC. So I think this is a big year for Texas A&M to prove. I don't know about that. I don't think Texas A&M has proven enough in the SEC to clearly say we're a better team or better program.
Well, but Texas hasn't even proven anything, and they haven't proven anything in the Big 12 either. I mean, if you can't be a winner in the Big 12, how the hell can you expect to be a winner of the SEC?
So they could clearly come into this conference with Texas and Oklahoma and say,
the door is open.
We are above you guys, but they're leaving this door open with the way that they've performed recently. They could change that this year with a good year.
I get you. The door is open. Absolutely. The door is open definitely for them to be knocked down a peg below Texas. Absolutely. As they come into the SEC. But down number 5 on the list and the last one and probably the second most, the team that has the second most to prove for me in college football this year is USC.
Yeah.
USC, I think this year, and you can make an argument that they are the team with the most to prove because I think with Caleb Williams coming back, what Lincoln Riley has established at USC, they have no more excuses. They have no more excuses, even though they lost Jordan Addison. They lost his big, wide receiver target. They have plenty of options there. Lincoln Riley is a proven winner, can build a great program. Caleb Williams is already being comped to Patrick Mahomes. If they don't make a college football playoff, it'll be a disappointing season for USC. I think that's where I'm at with them. If they aren't in the college football playoffs, it'll be a disappointment for USC. And it is the perfect opportunity for this school to reestablish the tradition of excellence, right? USC was constantly Rose Bowl, national championship. They were constantly in that conversation, and they haven't been for 10, 12 years. I mean, they haven't been there for a long time, really, since the sanctions came down on them. So, this is their opportunity to really reestablish that, and they have all the pieces in place to do it. If they're not a college football playoff team, this is the biggest disappointment of the college football season. USC, I'll redact my statement about Texas A&M. USC has the most to prove in 2023.
Yeah, I 100% agree with the defending Heisman winner at the quarterback, the presumed number 1 pick in the NFL draft next season. Yes, USC has to make the playoff. They failed last year by dropping that Pac-12 championship game to Utah and missing out on that playoff spot. They would have made it had they won that game. They would have been the 4 seed, and they didn't. And yeah, that has to be the goal. They absolutely have the most to prove. And it's not I don't think Caleb Williams has much to prove. The offense, the defense, though, is
The
what
defense
needs
was bad.
They were 94th in points per game allowed last year out of 130 so teams in college football. That was the reason why they dropped the 3 games that they did, and why a lot of their games were more competitive than they should have been. So that defense has to improve. If they can get to top 50, I mean, it doesn't need to be Georgia. This isn't Georgia, Alabama. This ain't the SEC. It's okay. It's USC. But you can be a top 50 defense and a top 5 offense. They can do it. They can be there.
As explosive as that offense is, they're going to be a top 5 offense in the country. If you could just be top 30, top 40 in the nation, you're good. You're good. That's all you have to do. Just don't suck ass like you did last year, because that's what bit you. That's what bit you and kept you out of a playoff. So, yeah. So I got USC as my 5th team with the most to prove in 2023.
Love it. Love it. Great. Top 5, my friend. Run through them one more time for the folks.
So the top 5 college football programs with something to prove in 2023. We got Notre Dame. We got the University of Texas. We have University of Washington. We got Texas A&M University. And then we got University of Southern California, USC.
There you go. Love it.
Not South Carolina, USC.
Yeah. Okay. Great top 5. Can't wait for college. I'm getting excited for college football season as well, Mitch. I mean, we are still a couple months away, but I feel like the momentum building towards it. And I am very excited to see how things play out. A lot of fun storylines this year with the new Big 12 conference, final year of USC, UCLA, Texas, Oklahoma, and their conferences. I mean, a lot of storylines to get excited about. And in fact, I have a top 5 as well on college football. College football related. Mitch, you had the 5 teams with the most to prove this year. I've got a list about college quarterbacks. Last year, I wrote up an article on our website. And if you don't already know or haven't checked out the website, sportshourguys.wordpress.com. But I wrote up an article of 5 quarterbacks to watch in 2022 to highlight a few of the more underrated quarterbacks that you should keep an eye on, right? Some of our favorites are on the list: Jaron Hall, Brennan Armstrong, KJ Jefferson, Jake Haener, Taulia Tagovailoa. Those were the 5 on last year's list. And I've got another top 5 this year for the 5 quarterbacks you need to know in 2023. So we're going to look ahead at this season, and I'm going to highlight a few guys that if you're watching college football this year, or you're trying to get excited on who the breakout stars could be, keep an eye on some of these names you may or may not be familiar with.
Yeah, I love to hear it. You mentioned my guy, Brendan Armstrong, who clearly did not live up to.
It was not good. It'll be better this year at NC State. He's back with Robert and the OC from Virginia. Hopefully he looks much more like 2021 Brendan Armstrong next year.
I sure hope so. I love Brendan Armstrong so much.
Yes. Yeah. So you, in fact, if you're watching this live on May the 31st, this article will be on our website tomorrow. On June 1st, if you're listening to the podcast feed, it may be live already, depending on when you're listening. But top 5 quarterbacks you need to watch.
Whoa. Do it.
Do right. I got to do the. Okay. All right.
Do it right.
All right. On this week's edition of Mitch-Mo's top 5 list of the week.
Let's go.
Featuring Dallen. 5 college quarterbacks to watch in 2023.
Thank you. There we go.
There we go. We got to start in the Big 12, Mitch, with this is the guy. If this list had to be 1 and not 5, this would be the one. Jalen Daniels, the quarterback out of Kansas. This is my guy I'm most excited about this year. Burst onto the scene last year with the Jayhawks, leading them to a 5-0 start. Absolutely electric, 6 foot, 200-pound, small guy, quick, runs the ball had 7 rushing touchdowns last year, 425 yards in 9 games, 18 passing touchdowns to 4 interceptions in those 9 games. He led Kansas to the hot start, and then in the TCU game, gets injured very early in the game, gets replaced by Jason Bean, ends up coming back late in the season, playing a couple games, but that's all we got to see of Daniels. But he was a legit Heisman candidate in those 5 games. He was like in that conversation of what is this kid doing? It was electric what he was doing for the Jayhawks. And I just think that's the beginning of what can be of this kid. Still young, inexperienced. He'll be in his 4th season, but just played a handful of games here and there in the first couple of seasons. Last year, first year as the really full-time starter for Kansas before the injury, but he's got a lot to prove that he can repeat, that he can really be a quarterback that leads to winning at this level. But I mean, you get off to a 5-0 start. You got Kansas in the national conversation. I mean, I think they were even ranked at that point. Kansas never gets ranked in the top 25, So this Jalon Daniels kid is electric, and I have high expectations for him in the Big 12 this year. So that's my first quarterback to watch.
Yeah, when they were ranked in the top 25, I think that was the first time they were ranked in the top 25 since 2007, when they were like the number 3 team in the nation.
Yeah.
So like that was a really, really fun time for Kansas football to watch. And we were talking about them being legitimate like spoilers for the college football playoffs. So really excited to see Jalon Daniels come back healthy and put together another senior year for the Jayhawks.
Yeah, absolutely. Mitch, the next quarterback on our list is a quarterback. This is easy to say. I guess the best quarterback on this list, probably the most well-known, but still a guy I think is being underrated in the national conversation, and that's Jordan Travis. As I knock my mic over,
take it
unprofessional.
Easy
Jordan Travis, the quarterback from Florida State. The Seminoles. Travis is well-traveled in college football. I think he's already spent 5 years. He spent a couple years at Louisville. That's where he started his college career before heading down to Florida State. Last year, helped lead Florida State to a very good season and put up big numbers doing it. 3,000 passing yards, 24 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. His 91.7 PFF grade was the 3rd best in all of college football last year. He was really, really good for a 10-win Florida State team. And I think he's just building upon that this next year. Yes, he has spent a lot of time in college football. This will be his 5th season. But I think this is him finally putting it all together. And with the numbers that he put up last year, 7 rushing touchdowns to add on to that, I'm kind of surprised he's just not mentioned. I mean, I don't think he's Caleb Williams like Drake May. Those guys are like up there, but when you're talking about like Michael Penix, when you're talking about, Quinn Ewers or like who's going to be I think Jordan Travis should be in that conversation. It wouldn't surprise me if he was a Heisman finalist this year. I think Florida State should win the ACC. And I'm in on Travis. I think it'll be a big year for him. So a name to keep an eye on if you're not familiar already. That's Jordan Travis, quarterback, Florida State.
I like that pick, and I think that he's going to be really – and just for the names that you just mentioned, the Drake Mays, the Caleb Williams, the Michael Penix, the KJ Jeffersons, right? He's not as flashy as those guys, and so he's going to be overshadowed by them, but he might be one of the most solid, most well-rounded quarterbacks that we have in college football. So love that pick that you have.
Yeah. And he's an old tread, right? He's been in college for a while. He's a transfer. It's like you just lose favor in people's eyes. People get tired of you. You want to talk about somebody new, somebody else that's interesting. You sort of forget about these guys, and then they start having that success you never saw before, and you don't really give them the credit. I think that's kind of how it feels for Travis for me. So we'll see what 2023 brings for him. The next quarterback on the list, though, speaking of transfers, this is a new transfer, a guy who's headed to a situation to shine and get a spotlight to get to the NFL. And I think he's going to have a huge year in the Big Ten. It's Tanner Mordecai, the quarterback for Wisconsin, formerly of SMU, formerly of Oklahoma. That's where he started his career. And Mitch, an honorable mention on last year's top 5 list. Last year, he was in the mix for me. He was one of the names I considered. Ultimately, I went with Jake Haener out of the group of 5 range. But now Mordecai, after putting up great numbers at SMU again last year, 33 touchdowns, 3,500 passing yards, 65% completion percentage, and leading them, 7 wins in a bowl game. He's headed up to Wisconsin, to Madison, to join Luke Fickell, the new head coach for Wisconsin. Luke Fickell is going to bring high-powered offense to the Big Ten, and he has positioned Tanner Mordecai to be that guy to do it. And I think Mordecai is going to put up big numbers in the Big Ten. If Wisconsin's a 10-win team, if they're competing with Michigan and Ohio or Ohio State in that Big Ten championship game, and they make a Rose Bowl run, I think Mordecai can put himself on the map to be a day 2 draft pick. I think he could be that kind of guy. And the Big Ten in Wisconsin's the perfect place for him to shine. So a guy to keep an eye on. I think he's going to be big this year in college football. It's Tanner Mordecai, the quarterback from Wisconsin.
What a perfect fit. Tanner Mordecai and Luke Fickell. I mean, it's just like,
great.
It's great fit. His time up at SMU was up. So for him to go to Wisconsin and get paired up with a guy like Luke Fickell, this is best case scenario for him and his NFL draft stock moving forward. He's going to be putting some high powered offenses in the Big Ten. Excited to see what that kid can do.
Yeah, absolutely, Mitch. Our last Power 5 quarterback here. We'll go to the ACC again. We had Jordan Travis from Florida State, another ACC quarterback that I'm very interested in. This is a young guy, a guy who's less experienced. Most of the guys we've listed, 3 or 4 years are looking to kind of capitalize on maybe this final year. This is a guy who still has time, things to prove, but really broke out as a first-year starter last year, and that's Riley Leonard, quarterback from Duke. Led Duke to a 9-win season last year, did it in impressive fashion as the first-year starter, just under 3,000 passing yards, 20 touchdowns, 6 interceptions on 63.8% completion percentage. Also rushed for 699 yards and 13 touchdowns. So that's 33 total touchdowns for this kid last year. And I mean, led Duke to 9 wins. Are you kidding me? Like, when does Duke do that? I mean, extremely impressive for this kid. 6'4", 205. He's got a great build. He's got the kind of guy that he has another big season. He builds upon this. Duke gets to 9 or 10 wins again. They flirt in the ACC. He gets 28, 30 touchdowns. Now in 2025, he is one of those quarterbacks to watch. Oh, could he be a draftable? Could he be one of those high picks? I think he's in that trajectory. So start paying attention now. Don't miss out on this kid while he's still developing. Riley Leonard, quarterback out of Duke, a name to watch next year.
Honestly, never heard of him, so I'm glad you brought it to my attention.
I love it.
So yeah,
I love it.
Love it.
That's what this is about, Some of these names again, the Jordan Travises, maybe the Jalen Daniels, maybe you're familiar with, but we do want to shed some light on some other quarterbacks you may not be familiar with. Leonard is one. Mitch, we got a final name. We'll go to the group of 5 ranks for this one. Got to highlight a group of 5 quarterback, and there was nobody else that I considered for the group of 5 other than Michael Pratt, the quarterback out of Tulane, leading the Green Wave to the New Year's 6 and a victory over USC last year. Pratt was extremely impressive, throwing for over 3,000 yards and 27 touchdowns, adding 10 touchdowns on the ground as well. And again, leading Tulane to a 12-win season. They again made the New Year's 6, played USC or beat USC in the Cotton Bowl, ended the season as the number 9 team in the AP poll. Extremely impressive for Tulane. And this season for Tulane, I think, is really interesting. Yes, they lost Tyjae Spears, their dynamic running back, and that's going to hurt Pratt. You're just going to rely on him more, and I think he can do that. But Tulane's in a position now in the American Athletic Conference where there's no Cincinnati, there's no Houston, there's no UCF. Those guys are gone. And there's a bunch of new teams in the AAC that have come from Conference USA. And there's a chance for a new pecking order to sort of be established. And who's going to be the best group of 5 program? Well, Tulane put themselves on the map last year with that 12-win season, right? And now they have a chance. Willie Fritz and that program has a chance to prove we should be the group of 5 team to beat. We should be the standard of the American Athletic Conference. You can back it up with another double-digit win season, another New Year's 6 bid. That'll do it. And for Michael Pratt, if he could do that again, I think he puts himself in a position to be a draftable quarterback. A mid-round pick, 4th, 5th, 6th round maybe, but a draftable quarterback if he can show that success in back-to-back seasons. So name to watch at the group of 5 level, Michael Pratt, quarterback out of Tulane.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Pratt's a great pick. You think about the other quarterbacks, and he's a Power 5 guy, but he definitely was at the bottom half of that Power 5. But like Drew Brees is a Purdue guy. Like these type of quarterbacks that elevate these programs to beyond their expectations. That's those kind of guys that you want to look for in the mid rounds when you're drafting a quarterback. So I love that Michael Pratt is part of this list. A great pick as a part of your top 5.
Yeah, I think of like a Kellen Moore, right? You know, he's like Kellen Moore leading with what he did at Boise State, ended up finding an NFL career for himself, and he wasn't a top pick, but he got respect for having success at what he did and got a shot and was able to, I mean, now he's got coaching gigs. He's got OC gigs. He's set. He's good. He's found
could be a head coach
place.
Soon, yeah,
exactly. So, I think Pratt, another good season. He could find himself with a draftable grade in that mid-round range and a good opportunity. So there you go. That's the 5 college quarterbacks to watch in 2023. I'll run through the names one more time for you. Jalen Daniels, quarterback from Kansas. Jordan Travis, quarterback, Florida State. Tanner Mordecai, Wisconsin. Riley Leonard of Duke. And Michael Pratt of Tulane. 3 honorable mentions I had that I considered. Cam Ward from Washington State. Drew Aller. I don't remember. I think it's Drew Aller, the Penn State quarterback. And Spencer Rattler from South Carolina, who also was an honorable mention last year. I couldn't quite put him in the list again, I guess. But one of those, I'm just like, maybe he'll break out. It feels like he might, You just want to keep an eye on.
I'm quickly losing hope on Spencer Rattler. I'm quickly losing hope.
There's a reason why he didn't make the 5. Just an honorable mention. So there you go. But that's it. You can find that on the website tomorrow. Again, the sportshourguys.wordpress.com. You can check out the article, a little more of a breakdown for you there in the written form. And college football, Mitch, will be here before we know it.
Oh my gosh, I cannot wait. I cannot wait for college football to get here. It's my favorite time of year, right up there with NFL. It's one of my favorite times of year. So
absolutely,
just the more football, the better. Cram all the football in my head that we can.
Yes.
That's what I'm looking for.
100%.
But yeah, Dallen, that was a great top 5 session there. Got a top 5 from both of us. Dallen, thank you for joining me.
Of course.
Top 5.
It's a pleasure.
We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to do a little boys club entry here that maybe is a couple weeks overdue. And then we're going to get into tiering all 32 NFL quarterbacks for the 2023-2024 season. You don't want to miss it, guys. So stick around, and we'll be right back. Sports Hour with Mitch-Mo Dallen. Thanks for sticking with us through the break.
Yes.
I love that smooth jazz. A little bit of smooth jazz we got going on there on the break.
Feels good kind of coming out with that, is
it's
very
a good,
relaxing.
It's like a palate cleanser is what it is.
Yeah, it is.
It's
the cracker that you eat in between, bites to keep everything pure.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. Talon, so after that palate cleanser, we got a little bit of we got a little business to take care of before we get into our tier list. But so I want to start off with the boys club down. We got a guy that we're going to get into the boys club, a guy that is coming a couple weeks late because we didn't have the podcast last week. And I know he had a rough finish last week, missed the cut, was 15 over. But this guy finished tied for 15th in the PGA Championship and was paired up with Rory in his final round. This guy had an absolute fantastic PGA Championship, all 4 rounds. Michael Block, welcome to the boys club. Just a course pro. If you don't know, like course pros, there's like 15,000 course pros that are associated with the PGA. Like, it's not that hard to do that. I guess it is difficult, I guess, in some sense, but compared to being an actual PGA Tour pro, it's difficult. He gets the invite to come play in this, and he winds up 15th. He locks himself into next year's PGA Championship. And I believe the Canadian Championship next year?
The Canadian Open, I think.
Canadian Open.
And I think it's this season still. I don't know what it is, but he earned qualifications for 2 PGA tournaments by his placement at the PGA Championship, plus earning the Open invite to last week's tournament, which was just because he was awesome and the sponsors wanted him there. So,
what a story. What a great guy. Just seems like the nicest guy in the world. Family man, great golfer. By the way, also good at really good at what he does. He's a great golfer. Just an exceptionally likable story. Michael Block. He's got to get into the boys club for us this week.
He's like the essence of the boys club, right? Like this is what the boys club is about. Guys like stories like this, guys that come out of nowhere. And an iconic moment, obviously an iconic story in golf, right? What he did at this PGA Championship, but the hole-in-one at 16.
Oh my god.
That's like an iconic golf shot. That's going to be one that we remember, I feel like, for a while. And this guy's not even a tour pro, right? That is
him looking at Rory and going, Rory, did that go in?
Did it go in?
Did it go in? Like Rory just grabbing him and going, yeah, dude, it did. It's like, he was just like, and then his like disbelief that he just hole-in-one in the PGA Championship.
Yeah.
If this guy doesn't have at least a 30 for 30 made about him, it's a shame. I know the movie, technically, a lot of people are drawing comparisons to the movie Tin Cup. But if this guy doesn't have at least a 30 for 30 made about him, it's an absolute travesty. This guy 100%. Is just one of the most likable guys in sports right now. Michael Block, even though he's going back to being a course pro and teaching lessons here for a little while before he plays his next tournament that he's locked into. America, Michael Block has a hold on your heart. Yep. He does. So Michael Block gets into the boys club this week.
Love it. Michael Block was the winner of the PGA Championship. Sorry, Brooks Koepka. You didn't win the weekend. Michael Block won that tournament. It is what it is.
Shout out to Brooks Koepka too for not trying to outshine the situation,
yeah, that's fair. Being respectful of, this is a great story and,
Yeah, absolutely. I won, but let's look at this guy, let's take a look at this guy. He was fantastic. So
yeah, that's a good point.
Class acts on all end. So there we go. That's boys club entry of the week, Dallen. Michael Block, tier list time, Dallen.
Yes.
No draft. No bracket. It's tier list time. And Dallen, we're going to be tier listing all 32 NFL quarterbacks going into the 2023-2024 season. So let's get into it.
Yep, you can see it on your screen now. This is the tier list of all 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL next season. Mitch and I have to put this together. We have to be in agreement and discuss some of these. And if we, disagree, we'll have to figure out how we do this. But that's it'll be fun. I'm sure we'll have a lot of agreement in here and a little bit of debate, which should be good. But we've got 6 tiers and we'll read them through if you're not watching live. And this is, another reason why you should be tuning in every Wednesday night when we do the podcast live on YouTube and Twitter. YouTube.com/the Sports Hour Guys. Twitter is at Sports Hour Guys. Join us live so you could be more interactive and see the stuff we're doing on video, which is a lot of fun. But we'll describe it for you on the podcast feed. The 6 tiers we have, starting with the S tier, that's the GOAT tier. The A tier is the elite quarterback tier. The B tier is can get you into the playoffs. The C tier is the mid-city mids featuring Mitty Mitterson, the mid quarterbacks. The D tier is TBD. Maybe we need a little more information on these guys. And the F tier is what the hell are you doing? This is garbage. This is the garbage tier. No excuses there. The F tier. So that's what we got, Mitch. Let's jump into this and let's go division by division here. And let's start maybe in the NFC. We always start in the AFC on stuff.
Yeah, let's start in the NFC.
Let's start in your NFC North, Mitch.
Oh, boy.
Let's start in your NFC North. And let's start with Kirk Cousins. We got Kirk Cousins here. I'll drag him up. I'm just going to put him in the C for now. That's not where he has to be. But let's discuss where we feel like Kirk Cousins. I feel like most people generally see him as a C tier quarterback. I generally tend to think he's more of like a B tier. It's good enough to get you there, but he's not elite by any means. He's not really pushing that. At worst, he's a C tier. At his best, he's a B. But I feel good about him in the B tier. I don't know what you're thinking.
See, and I feel like that my range of ceiling and floor is a little bit wider than everyone else's when it comes to Kirk Cousins, because I feel like that he could be as like the lowest of the C tier, but at his highest, he could be the highest of the B tier, which would be like NFC title game. So I feel like that B is the correct ranking for him, and I feel like that like kind of that mid-range B, like he could get you to a title game. He could. He puts up the numbers. He's talented enough. I feel like he gets more flack than he should, but I think Kirk Cousins in the B tier is about right where he needs to be.
Okay, we're 1 for 1 so far. This is going to be so easy. All right, next up, Mitch, Jordan Love. This is a guy we know nothing about as an NFL starting quarterback, taking over for Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, and obviously there's a lot of questions there. This one probably has got to be the TBD tier, right? Just because there's still so much unknown. Despite him being a 3-year NFL player, there's still so much unknown about him.
Yeah, but I haven't been impressed with what we've seen out of him as an NFL quarterback. So like,
it was like one game.
Okay, so let me get to it. Dallen. Okay.
Right.
Oh boy, we're getting spicy already. Yes, TBD is the right place to put him because we have to see more.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good.
I won't get spicy. I won't get spicy too early.
Save a little bit of it. All right, Mitch, let's go with your guy. Your quarterback here, Justin Fields, quarterback for the Chicago Bears. I think this one's kind of interesting, right? Still a young quarterback. It's a lot to prove. Still a lot we don't know. But we do have 2 years of tape of starting experience for Justin Fields, and it has been a mixed bag. It hasn't been great. Now, the situation around him hasn't been great. He's shown the running ability, obviously, is there. The passing ability still, a work in progress. I feel okay throwing him in the TBD, and that's not because he's a D-tier quarterback, but just because I still feel like even without even with all the snaps he's taken, there's still so much we don't know about him because of the situation around him and all the other factors that go into it.
So this is one of those guys with a high range of possibilities, I think, for me, right? But I feel the same way you do, just in the inverse. I feel like he's B-worthy tier.
Wow.
I feel like he is. And
wow.
it's because we've seen physical and hang with me. We've seen physically what he can do. We know what he's capable of doing when he's given the right protection. He has a weapon to throw to. He has the offense around him to do those things, right? When Chicago's lackluster, completely pathetic offense was totally clicking, we saw what Justin Fields was completely capable of doing. Now add DJ Moore, add whatever running back they're going to add into it, and you build around Justin Fields. This is a guy that is probably on the lower end of the B tier for me. I'm not saying he's up there with Kirk Cousins. You know, he's not a guy that can lock you into the playoffs, but he's a guy that can do it because of his skill set and because what he brings to the table. So he's somewhere in that B to C range. So I would say upper C, lower B for me. But
yeah, I can't get on board with. I just feel like at the end of the day, we're going to have a lot of players in that B tier, and Justin Fields is going to stand out like a sore thumb as a guy who just really hasn't proven much. And I think the potential is, I'm with you on the potential of him being a B tier. And maybe by the end of the 2023 season, we can say, you know, the way that like a Trevor Lawrence made the leap last year, right? And, you know, he'll probably be in that B tier range, you know, like the way that he made that leap last year. I think maybe at the end of the season, we can say Fields proved that all that potential was there. But to me, it's all still potential. I don't think there's been much that's proven yet. And I don't think a lot of it's his fault. A lot of it's just situation. You know, this was the team with the worst record in the NFL last year. Right, and it's not because of Justin Fields. You know, it's a lot of what's around him. So I'm cool if we want to throw him in the C tier because, again, 2 years of experience, we have seen stuff from him. He doesn't qualify for the TBD in a way that Jordan Love or maybe some of the rookies will. So I can compromise on C tier.
Okay. All right. I'll compromise on C tier. I'll compromise.
Okay. He has a 5-20 record as a starter, Mitch. I just don't know if we could throw that guy in the B tier.
That's not all his fault, though. That's not all his fault.
It isn't, but
that's hardly his fault. Hardly his fault.
It's a hard place to put ourselves. All right. Who are we missing here?
We're going to go with the Lions. Jared Goff.
Yes.
Oh, okay. C tier.
Yeah. I mean, Jared Goff is the C tier of C tier. I mean,
he's is he the poster child of C tiers?
Could he be the very bottom of the B tier? Like good enough to get you to the playoffs? Because he did that with the Rams, right? Early in his career, and last year he led the Lions to a 9-win record and they barely missed out. And we think they're going to be right there again this year. So, you know, I don't know.
So that's where I'm like with he's the poster child of the C tier is like, yeah, he's mid, right? He's like the 15th best quarterback in the league, but can he get you to the playoffs?
Could he be a little better? Right.
Technically he could.
Yeah,
technically he could, but he could also ruin a season for you.
Yeah.
So like, that's where fair. He's like the poster child for the C. So
love it.
I feel like Jared Goff is perfect in the C tier.
Okay. I'm with you there. Mitch. Let's jump to the NFC South. And let's start with my Panthers new starting quarterback, Bryce Young, and I'll throw him right there into the D tier just because, again, he hasn't played a snap yet. Love the potential. Yeah. We got to see things. There's going to be quite a few quarterbacks in this D tier, which I think just kind of shows how exciting the future of the position is in the NFL right now. I mean, obviously you have the Mahomes and the Allens and the Burrows and these guys at top, but we're getting a big crop from the 2021 draft, the Fields and the Lawrence draft into this draft with, the top three of the top 4 picks at quarterback. Seems like we're getting a lot of good young talent in the NFL, and that's going to be exciting to see in a few years.
And I'll dub it right now. We are in the great quarterback reset. That's what we're going to call this.
Yeah.
Like we are resetting back to youth. And we're going to have a lot of young, youthful quarterbacks like we did in that like 03, 04, 05 type of range where we had
now
a lot
those guys
of
are gone,
really,
but
now those guys
yeah.
are gone, but we're kind of resetting back into that era.
Right.
So,
love it.
a decent, TBD. We got to see what CJ Stroud is going to do.
Bryce Young. Bryce Young.
Oh, you picked Bryce Young. Sorry.
NFC South. Yes.
NFC South. Sorry, my bad. Yeah.
That's not the alternate universe where my Panthers
South.
took CJ Stroud number one, and then I thought you said AFC South.
Yeah.
No, you're good.
No, Bryce Young. Yeah.
All right. Let us go to the Falcons. We've got Desmond Ridder, who will be the starter for the Falcons. Feel like he's got to be TBD too, right? I mean, we saw some from him last year as a rookie, but obviously they had a lot of Marcus Mariota, especially early in the season last year. Only appeared in 4 games last year, Desmond Ridder, and they are giving him the job. But this is, I'm glad Atlanta's doing this, by the way. I'm glad Atlanta is giving him the chance. Let's see what we got out of this 3rd round pick. If he turns out this year, fantastic. If he doesn't, well, we know we got to go get that guy in the draft next year. And, well, it turns out there's a lot of talent in the draft next year you could potentially go get. So I like the idea of Atlanta giving Ridder the shot. He's got a ton of talent around him. Let's see what you can really do, and we're going to know by the end of this year whether we can move forward with you or we really got to go after a top prospect. But I think he's D tier. 4 games is not enough to know what he is.
Yeah, we can't call him trash just yet. We can't do that yet.
That'd just be mean.
Right.
It'd be like bullying.
Yeah. So D tier. D tier's it.
All right. New Orleans Saints, Mitch. New quarterback for the Saints is Derek Carr coming over from Las Vegas. And I think Carr is sort of...
So this is an interesting one for me.
Yeah. Because I know you've got some affinity for Carr.
I do. I think he's a really good quarterback. I think he was put in really bad situations. Not saying that his situation in New Orleans is any better than it was in Las Vegas. In fact, you can argue that it was marginally worse.
I mean, Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs, Darren Waller's pretty good. Not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad.
I still want to put him in the B tier. Like the lower end of the B tier. Because I think he can get you there. Because we've seen it before. We've seen it done before.
But we've also seen it with Jared Goff, and the way that you argued for Goff is kind of how I feel about Carr. Like, when he's good, he could be a B tier that gets you to the playoffs. If he's just mid, he's not going to carry you into the playoffs, right? Unless the situation has been really good around him, Derek Carr hasn't really gotten anybody to exceeding levels of expectation, right?
I wish you didn't
So
say
I think...
that.
For Carr, he is that C tier. He's right there with Goff. He could lead you to the playoffs. He could be good enough for that, but he's not talented enough to just get you there without a really good situation around him.
Okay. Last time I'm compromising without debate. Without debate, last time I'm compromising.
We got
I know we got a lot to go. We got a lot to go, but that's it.
C tier for Derek Carr. C for Carr. That's good. Mitch, Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is an interesting one. So we're actually going to include 2 quarterbacks into this because we don't know. We don't even know who's going to be starting week 1, let alone who's going to start the majority of the games for the Bucs this year. You've got Kyle Trask, the former 2nd round pick out of Florida, who is going to get an opportunity, but the Bucs also brought in Baker Mayfield to potentially, be the starter if Trask isn't that guy. Either way, this is a horrible plan. We ripped them on our way too early predictions last podcast for the plan that Tampa Bay has pulled out at the quarterback position this year. As far as tier ranking these guys, let's start with Trask, Mitch.
It's unfair to put him in the F. It's unfair to put him in the F because we don't know. We don't know. We haven't seen him play a snap yet. So, I guess that's an easy one for me. Baker, on the other hand, I want to put him in the C. And it's because we've seen him lead teams to playoffs before. We've seen him do it.
He did it once.
Dallen, he's only been around for 4 years, 5 years. That's all he's been. And they were building a team around him at the time. They were building the team around him at the time. So he finally gets the winning opportunity They lose a close game, right? They could have been in the AFC Championship game at that point because I think that was a divisional round game. So to put him down, I know where you want to put him. You want to put him in the F.
And it's not because I hate Baker.
That's exactly where to put him.
Well, there's no real D tier because our D tier is TBD, right? In reality, he is a D tier quarterback, right? He's below the C guys. He's a tier below Goff and Carr, but he's not bottom of the barrel NFL. But in this exercise, we don't have to be mean about it. In this exercise, he is F tier because he's not the same tier as Carr and Goff. He's not as talented as those guys. He hasn't proven that. And honestly, Tampa Bay throwing him out there is
He's been to
egregious.
as many playoffs as Derek Carr has.
That he has. So is a playoff berth an automatic to get you in the C tier? Is that
he was almost the AFC Championship game?
Because Justin Fields hasn't made a playoffs, but it's we gotta, the qualifications will be different. Listen, I'm not super big on this thing, but if we're not putting Baker in the F tier, then I don't know who we're putting in the F tier.
Fine,
I don't think we're going to have a single person in the F tier.
Put him in the F tier then. Put him in the F tier.
Okay. I'm sorry. I don't mean this mean, Baker. Carolina Panthers legend.
I feel
Baker Mayfield.
I feel like you're heavy on him. You're
feeling confident with him in Tampa next year? Because I'm just...
I never said I felt confident in him. All I said was he has put together the same resume as Derek Carr has in a less amount of time, and you want to grade him 2 tiers lower.
Well, Derek Carr's been a pro. Did Baker make a Pro Bowl? I don't think he made a Pro Bowl.
I think he made one.
He did not.
Okay.
I just checked because I was feel like he could have that 1 year. Derek Carr's been to 4 Pro Bowls. I think that's a little different, I think Carr's proven over the course of his career.
But we're not talking about Pro Bowls. We're talking about playoff appearances.
I'm talking about the quality of the player, right? We're tiering them. All those things matter, not just playoffs, but
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Is that it for the NFC South? We got everybody?
So.
Yeah, we got
everybody.
So.
Yeah.
All right, Mitch. Yeah. NFC East. Let's start with Jalen Hurts. Now, Hurts is going to be a fun one. Because obviously the answer is will have changed very differently from last year, right? If you asked us last year, he might have been a TBD, we don't really know. He could have been C tier, could have been F tier, depending on how you looked at him. I mean, they didn't make the playoffs, but now he takes him to the Super Bowl. He's an MVP candidate. What are we thinking? I'd love to hear your thoughts first.
Okay. I want to put him in the S tier.
Okay.
I really do. I have an affinity for Jalen Hurts. I'm sorry.
Yes,
I do.
Yes.
Tell me why I shouldn't, though.
Because there's only one person that belongs in the S tier. Because there's one clear best quarterback in this league, and then there's a gap.
Patrick Mahomes.
Of course. But we'll get to them when we get to them.
Just take him out now.
But I can Hurts, yes, it was 1 year, but if we're just saying going into next year, I'm cool with putting him in the elite QB in that A tier. Absolutely. I think he's going to be in that top 5-ish conversation for quarterbacks in this league. That's, A tier for me. So.
See, and so he does so much what Pat doesn't do with the legs. He does so much what Pat doesn't do with the legs. He is able to create a brand new style. He's able to create a brand new run game outside of the running back position with his legs. He's able to use his arm still almost as efficiently as Patrick Mahomes does. In fact, Patrick Mahomes throws a large amount of interceptions. He's not the most efficient passer in the world when you look at his numbers. Jalen Hurts does things in a more efficient way with his arms, does what he can with his legs that Pat Mahomes can't do with his legs. That's why I want to put him in the GOAT tier.
Yeah, and I understand all that based on last year, but it was just 1 year that we've seen from Jalen Hurts. One really good year, but 1 year of that level of play. And Patrick Mahomes has been Patrick Mahomes since the minute he started games 4 years ago. So I think just comparing them is I think it's hard to put Hurts all the way up there after 1 year.
I don't know. Okay, fine. Put him in the A tier. Put him in the A tier.
I don't think that's disrespectful to Hurts at all to put him in the A tier.
No, but I'm not on board with that. I feel like
you think Jalen Hurts, Mitch, after 1 season of MVP level play is good enough to be considered with Patrick Mahomes as the best quarterbacks in this league?
I would take Jalen Hurts over Lamar Jackson.
Okay, well, I didn't ask you about Lamar Jackson. I asked you about Patrick Mahomes.
No, but I feel like you would put Lamar Jackson closer to the conversation of Patrick Mahomes.
I'm not talking about Lamar Jackson at all, Mitch. I asked you about Patrick Mahomes.
You're not listening. You're not listening to me. You would put Lamar Jackson closer to the conversation of Patrick Mahomes than you would Jalen Hurts, right?
I don't know. I thought the conversation is if he's a S tier, if Hurts is an S tier quarterback like Mahomes. We haven't got to Lamar yet.
Okay.
He's not Mahomes. I don't think anyone, maybe Allen.
Maybe I'm jumping ahead. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm jumping ahead, but I feel like we got that one wrong, but that's all good.
Okay, we shall see. All right, Mitch, Dak Prescott up next for the Cowboys. Feel like Dak is like high-end B tier. I think he could at times be an elite quarterback, right? I think like he could maybe put it together for a period, but I think Dak is like a solid to high tier B quarterback. Going to get you to the playoffs every year. You know what you're going to get from him, but he just is never going to be consistently an elite guy.
No, he's not. I mean, the turnover concerns are really bad with Dak Prescott. So, I would definitely put him in that B tier. I don't think he's as good as Jalen Hurts. I don't think he's in that tier. But he's definitely a guy that can get you to the playoffs. He can get you to a title game, get you to a conference title game, absolutely. But I don't think he's a Super Bowl winning caliber, type of quarterback.
Yeah, fair enough. And I'd say like to be in the elite in the A or S tier, like you got to be a Super Bowl winning caliber quarterback, right? Like a guy that can either take your team to a Super Bowl or win one. I think that's a fair, sort of qualification there. So yeah, I'm with you. Dak B tier. Mitch, Daniel Jones, quarterback for the New York Giants. Another interesting one because again, if you asked us before last season, it would have been a very different answer. But Brian Daboll comes to New York and Daniel Jones finally puts together the promising season we were hoping. It wasn't. We can pump the brakes a little bit on it. It's not like he was like a, Pro Bowl quarterback or like, he threw for 15 touchdowns and 5 picks. Like, it's not like they asked him to do that much. He contributed on the ground with his legs. He was good, but this is still like a lot to be, we still need to see more from Jones. I think he's a C tier to me. He feels like C tier to me. I think he's proven enough to be a C tier guy. I don't think he's proven enough to be he's going to get you to the playoffs every year guy. I think we need to see more from him.
I'm almost tempted to put him in the D tier because he's one of those guys who's a late bloomer. We want to see what he actually can do. And so I'm kind of on that C to T, that C to D range, but I feel like C is probably going to be the most fitting spot for him as well. So
yeah, I get what you're saying because it feels like there's still more to be seen from him, right? Yeah. But he has played 54 games already. And it's like, so he has a lot of snaps, but there's still a lot to be had from Jones. I don't think we've seen it all. And, we'll see if, another repeat or an improvement on next season. And, maybe he moves up a tier, right?
Right.
All right. Washington, Mitch, and Washington, the Commanders are throwing out Sam Howell this year, UNC quarterback. I think he was their 5th or 6th round selection last year. And they are coming into the season with Howell and Jacoby Brissett to I guess kind of compete or be the backup, but they seem confident in giving Howell the job. Played in 1 game last year. That was it. So he's got to be a TBD, right?
Yeah, he's got to be D tier. Yep.
Yeah,
that was easy. Yeah, he's D tier.
Yeah, 1 game of tape. That's all we got. No
one knows what he's got.
NFC West, last of the NFC here, Mitch, and let's start with the Seahawks. Geno Smith. Geno, breakout season last year, comeback player of the year in the NFL, Pro Bowl quarterback, leading the Seahawks to the playoffs with 30 passing touchdowns, finally puts it together after, getting selected in the early second years ago, almost a decade ago. All right, after this 1 year, are we ready to put him in the B tier? Is he a C tier? What are we thinking?
Yeah, B tier. He can get you to the playoffs. He definitely can. I mean, all it takes is 1 year of what he just put up to prove that he can do it, because it wasn't like the Seahawks defense was blowing anyone out of the water. He was keeping a lot of what he was keeping that offense alive with his play. It wasn't like the running game was was absolutely dominating anything. He was keeping that offense alive with his play. So yeah, absolutely. He can get you to a playoff game. I'm going to put him in the B team.
I think I'll agree with you here. I think I'll go B tier. I think when I look at the guys in the C tier, I would feel more confident with Geno over Derek Carr, over Jared Goff, over Daniel Jones, over those types of guys. So I think like low B tier. Yeah, I think Geno, he proved it last year. I'm down with that. Love that.
Yeah.
Mitch, Los Angeles Rams, Matt Stafford, they win the Super Bowl. They have a huge step back last year. Coming into this year, there was health concerns last year. He is older, but obviously, we saw in that playoff run and in that Super Bowl win how special he can be. I know last year was bad and we might want to write him off. I do think Stafford is still a B tier quarterback. I think if he's playing and healthy, he is good enough to get you to the playoffs. I think he proved that in all those years in Detroit. He just was never surrounded by a team and an organization that could, actually help him do that. And then goes to LA and obviously wins a Super Bowl. So for me, he's like that Geno Smith B tier. He's good enough to get you to the playoffs. I don't know if we're going to get another Super Bowl run out of him, like that elite kind of play that we saw out of him in that run, but I'd still say he's low end B tier.
Yeah, he's B tier. Matthew Stafford is going to be our modern day Dan Fouts. Great quarterback, all the numbers in the world. I mean, Stafford has the Super Bowl victory over Fouts, but shows that he can be a fantastic quarterback. Just can't quite get you all the way there. And so I think that Stafford fitting in that B tier is a perfect spot for him.
Yeah, I like it. All right, Mitch, Kyler Murray up next. When he isn't playing Call of Duty, he does play quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals. Things are down in Arizona right now, obviously, but this is a hard one because Kyler is obviously uber talented. He's been a Pro Bowler before. He was, when they were in that hot streak a few years ago, he was an MVP candidate. He's shown some flashes in his career. He's former number 1 overall pick, clearly has a lot of talent. This organization has failed around him. The Cliff Kingsbury experiment failed. But where does that leave us with Kyler? Is he a C tier? Is he a B tier? Where do you sit on this?
He is somewhere in between B and D for me.
Yeah.
Because I know that he can get a team to the playoffs, but I also am not totally sure that he could. Like it's a weird situation with Kyler Murray. I know that sounds funny.
It
but
did,
but it's dependent on his dedication, what he's willing to put into his effort and the team that he has around him. And that's been in question over the last year and a half. So I feel like C is the perfect fit for him because we know he has all the talent in the world to do it. But is he willing to do it at the same time? So I'm putting Kyler in the C tier.
Okay. I will concede on C tier here. I would lean more B tier because, besides last year's, he was kind of banged up, only played 11 games last year, but besides last year's real debacle in his rookie season, those next 2 seasons, he was good. He led the team to the playoffs, made 2 Pro Bowls. He himself played well. The team didn't meet its expectations and succeed the way it needed to. I think that's more on the team than it is him in this case. But I'm okay with C tier because, again, there's obviously still a lot unproven with him, despite what we have seen.
He was good when the team was good. Okay, when the team was falling back behind, he fell apart. I mean, this guy just he was not able to step up when the team was falling apart. And so that's where I kind of fall with, Kyler in the C tier for me. So,
yeah, fair enough. All right, Mitch, the Niners, we have 2 quarterbacks in here for the Niners as well, like we did for the Bucks, because yes, like Purdy is the guy. He was the guy. He is injured and he's not going to be the week 1 starter. Maybe it's Sam Darnold, but it's likely going to be Trey Lance, the former, 3rd overall pick a few years ago. So both these guys have to be in this conversation. We don't really know who's going to play the most. I think Trey Lance is squarely in the TBD still. Yeah. Just because, again, we have seen so little from him.
I have no idea.
And I think with Brock Purdy, I think he has to be C. I don't think we've seen enough to say he played 4 games. I don't think we can say with full confidence he can get you to the playoffs over the course of a season. I just don't think we can.
Oh, I thought you were overrating him.
Really? You think he should be F tier or TBD, I guess? Still.
Because the quarterback situation is so up in the air in San Francisco. Yeah. I love what I saw out of Brock Purdy. I love what I saw out of him. I mean, this guy he seems to have all the things that equate to a winning quarterback at the NFL level. But again, just like Trey Lance, how you just made the same argument, small sample size. So like, I have a hard time putting him in the C. I think I have to put him in the TBD D range. So
I thought you were going to argue with me to have him higher. So I was trying to.
Well, like I said,
so that's good with me because I'm with you.
I love Brock Purdy. I think he's been fantastic, but
we saw 6 games total.
We have to see more. You have to see more.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I am with you there. I'm glad you're the logical one. Purdy in the D tier, TBD. And we'll jump to.
How about that for a change? I'm the logical one. How about that?
We're switching roles here. Mitch, time to jump to the AFC, and let's start in the AFC North with Joe Shiesty himself, the Tiger King, Joe Burrow, A tier, elite quarterback. Quarterback, right?
Yep, that's it.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't have much to say. Like that.
I know
that's just,
because
so
you're
fitting.
holding your tongue because I think you want more people in the S tier than I do. I think it really is only one person deserving to be in this S tier. And I know that there's a lot of other really good quarterbacks in this league, but I do think that there is a gap. And I don't think it's disrespectful to any of these guys to put them in the elite quarterback tier below that,
No, but okay. We'll get into that later. Let's just keep moving.
Okay.
So
Joe Burrow, A tier. We'll go to Kenny Pickett, quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who as a rookie last year had a pretty good rookie season. I think a surprisingly good rookie season. Obviously, they had a winning record, and especially down the second half of the season, he had the rookie season that you wanted. That's exactly what you wanted to see, right? Progress. Second half of the season, he's getting more comfortable. He's showing some progress. He's moving forward. He's so handicapped by that Matt Canada offense for Pittsburgh. I think there's just so much that we will continue to see from him.
Yeah.
I know he's a 1-year starter. I'm okay with throwing him in the C tier. But if we want to throw him in TBD because there's still, a lot of unknown, I'm cool with that as well. But I think with the season that we saw from him, I'm comfortable putting him in the C tier.
I would say C or D. C or D. There really is so much unknown. Like they relied so heavily on the run game and kind of limiting what he did through the air. But he had an impressive second half. So, C. C seems right. C seems right.
All right. We'll go C tier for Kenny Pickett. Mitch, up next, Lamar Jackson, quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens. Listen, I think you could debate between the B and the A tier. He's obviously a quarterback that could get you to the playoffs. He's won an MVP. He's been the best in the league at his height. I think personally he's an elite quarterback. I think he's in that, conversation of that next grouping. He's ahead of the Daks, the Staffords, the Genos, the Kirk Cousins in my mind. I wouldn't put him above Burrow or Hurts, or maybe some of the other quarterbacks will end up in the A tier, but I think he should be in that tier in my opinion. But I know that you feel differently about Lamar, so if we want to throw him in the B, I would be okay with that.
No, I don't feel differently about Lamar. He should be an elite quarterback. The only reason I felt differently about Lamar in the past years is how they've used him in the run game. That's the only reason I felt differently about him, is that you can't win championships with Lamar throwing the ball 40 times a game and running the ball 20 times a game. That's the only difference that I felt about Lamar. So
I just meant that you felt differently than me, because I know that, we feel a little. I'm not saying you feel completely different.
No, Lamar's elite. Lamar's elite.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you were bringing him up earlier. I was confused about why you're bringing him up earlier then.
What was I bringing him up
when we were
at?
talking about Jalen Hurts?
Because I thought that Jalen Hurts was above Lamar Jackson and that he should be in that S tier. That's what I meant.
Right. Okay.
But we have him in the same tier now, so it doesn't matter anymore. So, that's where I felt the difference was, is that like Jalen Hurts is kind of like Lamar Jackson 2.0, because Jalen Hurts throws the ball better, in my opinion, than Lamar Jackson. But I have no problem I have no problem with them being in the same tier. I have no problem.
Okay. Last quarterback in the AFC North, Deshaun Watson. The Watson thing was interesting when he came back after the suspension last year. Obviously, I think we both anticipated that it would go a little better for him in those 6 games. It went 3-3, and he honestly just looked like okay. But I mean, this guy's a 3-time Pro Bowler. When he was in Houston, I mean, he proved he was arguably an A tier quarterback, in that run that he was having. I think right now he's a B tier. He had 6 games in Cleveland last year after playing 0 games the year before in Houston. We just haven't seen him play very much at all the last couple seasons. But talent wise, I think he's a B tier quarterback. When he plays, he's good enough to get you to the playoffs. There's still just a lot of unknown, because again, 6 years with 6 games with the Browns last year, and then didn't play at all in 2021. When he played in 2022, he led the league with 4,800 passing yards. So, I mean,
like you said, B tier. But over the last few years, there's a lot of unknown. I have to put him in the D tier for me. That's where I feel most
D tier.
Yeah. Just there's too much to be unknown after the scandal stuff, if he's going to be able to rebound and become the quarterback that he once was before all that stuff. There's just too many question marks. There's too many question marks for me. And what we saw of the play out of him in Cleveland was not good. I mean, it wasn't great at all. It certainly wasn't B tier quality. So, I feel like there's a very definite question on, can Deshaun Watson rebound in Cleveland with the big contract after all the stuff that he's been through, and leaving Houston.
So where do you think we should put him then?
I feel like D is appropriate.
Yeah, I think I get what you're saying, because obviously there's questions. I mean, a lot of these guys could have questions coming into the season, but I just don't think there's a question about how talented he is. Like at the base level,
his talent. I'm not questioning his talent.
Right. I'm not saying you are. What I'm saying is that at the base level, he's a C tier quarterback, right? Like if he never becomes what he was in Houston again, but plays 5 years in Cleveland, he's going to be a C tier quarterback at the worst. Right. So that's where I feel like with D, I don't know. Like I get that there's questions, but there's not questions in the same way that like we have questions about what Bryce Young or Desmond Ridder or Jordan Love will be,
See, maybe I'm just a little bit behind you with like, I was still questioning the kind of quarterback that he was when he was in Houston, like what he was in Houston. Like he had all the big weapons, and he had all the opportunities to him. We didn't get to see him in kind of situations where he was tested. Now we're seeing
they
him
made the playoffs multiple times. He was a 3-time Pro Bowler. He had some run. I mean, they didn't have success in the playoffs, but
he had all the weapons.
They beat
in
the
world.
Bills the once. They had that game against the Chiefs. The Mahomes comeback against the Chiefs, but
I mean, I'll compromise on C.
Okay, let's throw him in the C tier. That feels good.
Yeah.
All right, Mitch, let's jump over to the the AFC South, and let's start with T-Law, Trevor Lawrence. Breakout season for the guy, and this is one that I'm gonna cape for. I think Trevor Lawrence should be in the A tier. I think he proved enough to me last year that he should be in that bottom level of the elite quarterback tier.
Nope. He can get you to the playoffs. Not enough resume. I mean, we want to keep guys like Dak Prescott and Kirk Cousins and Matthew Stafford out of the A tier with a bigger resume than Trevor Lawrence. We want to see one good year out of Trevor Lawrence, and we want to put him in the A tier. Not going to happen for me.
I mean, we saw one good year from Jalen Hurts, and we put him in the A tier.
Well, no, Jalen Hurts.
We saw no good years from Justin Fields, and we put him in the C tier. So, Well,
Jalen Hurts is a completely different situation. Trevor Lawrence is great. He can get you to the playoffs. We still have to see it, though.
Okay, fair enough. We'll put him in the B tier. Mitch, who do we have next? What do we got? Okay, so we're gonna do one Titan quarterback. We talked about this before. You could maybe see Will Levis down there in the faces. We're just gonna throw Tannehill in this tier because I think at the end of the day, Tannehill will be the one that starts the majority of the games. But I do think we'll see Will Levis, especially if things aren't going well for Tennessee. We'll see at least 6 games of Levis at the end of the season. But we'll do this exercise for Tannehill. And I mean, he's got to be C tier. I know things weren't great last year, but he is like the C of C tiers, right? He's like in that Goff Carr mix,
Poster child for C tiers. Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe a couple years you could have put him in the B, right? When Tennessee was rolling and it was like, all right, maybe he gets you to the playoffs. But yeah, Tannehill C tier. We'll see what happens with the Titans in 2023. Next up, let's go CJ Stroud, rookie quarterback for the Houston Texans. We'll throw him right there in the D tier.
Yeah.
Along with his fellow rookie for the Indianapolis Colts, Anthony Richardson. A lot of young quarterbacks in this division, right? You've got the successor for the Titans, Will Levis, right, as a rookie, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson rookies, and Trevor Lawrence entering his 3rd season in the NFL. So much youth. You're talking about the reset of the quarterback position. AFC South is a prime example of that, right?
Right. Oh, yeah. That's like the perfect example of it. Absolutely. Perfect.
All right, let's go AFC East here. And let's start with Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers, who won multiple MVPs. And then last year, a step back in Green Bay. Not the season you would have hoped. He's now with the New York Jets. And listen, I think honestly, if we put him anything less than the A tier, then we're just taking last year with too much of a with too much credit. The dude rattled off back-to-back MVP seasons, like the last 2 seasons before that, and then had one down year. Like, I know he's older. I know the cliff will come, but he's still freaking Aaron Rodgers. He's still an elite quarterback. So for me, I think he has to be A tier.
Oh, he has to be. Yeah, there's no question about it. A tier.
Yep. Okay. Easy. Mitch, Josh Allen, quarterback for the Buffalo Bills.
A tier. A tier.
Yep. Just throwing him in. Easy. Listen, if there was one other player that I think you could make an argument for the S tier, in my opinion, maybe Burrow, but probably stronger for Allen. I have my reasons why I think there should be one, and we'll talk about when we talk about Mahomes. But I think obviously A tier here. Yeah, Josh Allen. Look at this.
Allen over Hurts.
100%. Yes.
Oh.
Yes, Mitch. It's 1 year. Mitch, I love this for you and this hurt stuff, because this is what I was doing with Lamar Jackson like 2 or 3 years ago after his MVP season. And you were pushing back on me for getting all hyped on Lamar after the one good season. And Jalen Hurts just did it and didn't win an MVP. And yes, he led him to the Super Bowl. I'm not taking anything away from him, but like, kind of feels like the same thing. Kind of feels like the same thing, you know? I don't know. Who else do we have in the AFC East? We've done Rodgers. We've done Allen. Tua Tagovailoa.
Oh boy!
Listen, I think. Go ahead.
Okay, so like I know the talent this guy has. This guy has so much talent in the world. I want to put him in that A tier. Got to put him in the B. Got to put him in the B.
Tua is I was going to say C tier, and I'm
really?
Tua. Because here's the thing:
you're a truther. You're a Tua truther.
Has he led them to the playoffs yet?
Well, okay, so he's been injury riddled.
Right.
Okay? He's had the injury issue.
Right. So doesn't that only like further exacerbate the argument? If he can't be healthy enough to lead you to the playoffs, then how can he be a guy that can lead you to the playoffs? I think Tua is on that cusp, but I just don't think he's proven enough for me to put him in that next tier. Like you said, he has all the talent in the world to do it. And for spurts, he has shown that he's done it. But
I think having glass bones and glass ligaments is different than having head issues. I think is where I'm at with that.
What do you mean?
I think if he was better protected, we wouldn't be talking about this. I think if the Miami Dolphins had protected Tua a little bit different, we would be talking about the injury issues with Tua. So that's where I wanted to put him in the B tier, because I think he has that talent.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too. But like Kyler Murray is in the C tier, and Kyler Murray has proven more and played at a higher level for spurts of his career than Tua has. And
Kyler Murray's a different
to the playoffs.
He's a different athlete than Tua, though. He's a different athlete than Tua.
Of course. But I just don't think we can put Tua in that B tier range with all those guys that have actually been to the playoffs and done something, and even won games in the playoffs, you know?
Okay. All right. I don't get it. I think Tua has been given, I think he's been dealt a bad hand, essentially throughout his career, but
right.
That's just me, but
okay. We'll throw him in the B tier.
Okay.
Tua can get you to the playoffs. Last AFC East, who do we got? Mac Jones. McCorkle Jones. Great rookie year. Step back last year. Had 2 offensive coordinators, neither of which was qualified to be an offensive coordinator. Yes, he led the Patriots to the playoffs once, but Mac Jones is a C tier quarterback, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, no, he's mid. he's not going to get you anywhere other than 8 and 9, 10 and 7, maybe at the best. I mean, that's the kind of quarterback that he is right now. So yeah, and I don't see him getting any better than that. I mean, I love my Alabama quarterbacks, but Mac Jones is not that guy. He's not that guy.
All righty, Mitch. Last division, AFC West. And let's start with Russ. Russell Wilson. Obviously, absolute debacle in Denver last season. Now he's got Sean Payton, second year with the new organization. How's the adjustment? What does it look like? Listen, talent-wise, at his best, he was an A tier. At his worst, he was really bad last year. I kind of feel like a similar way with Stafford, where last year was definitely a step back and not encouraging for the future, and he's on the wrong side of 30 and all that, but guy's still got the talent to take you to the playoffs at the worst, as long as the situation isn't god awful around him and, he's got a real head coach. So I kind of feel like Russ should probably be in that B tier.
That's exactly where I was feeling him at. He can get you a playoff. He can get you to a playoff, but God, it was such a big step back for Russ that there's gonna have to be a big change for him to make that next step, that step back forward into that elite quarterback conversation. So I feel like B is kind of the perfect spot for Russ.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, Mitch, Jimmy Garoppolo, the new starting quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders. And Jimmy is one of those classic C tiers, right? I mean, he's the Jared Goffs, he's
no
the ones
question.
you think about.
Yeah, no question.
Yes, at his best, he's that Kirk Cousins can get you to the playoffs, right? At his best. But more often than not, it's like the situation has to be absolutely perfect around him. And even then, his team is having him attempt 6 passes in an NFC Championship game.
Look, the one time we've seen him in a Super Bowl, he had an elite defense, and now he's going to Las Vegas where he has one of the worst defenses in the league.
Yeah.
There's no way in hell he gets that done. No way.
No.
C at best.
Nope. Mitch, Justin Herbert.
Oh, he's a
breakout. Listen, I think Herbert's a B tier. I think after last year, people wanted to throw him up in the A tier and call him an elite. And I think a lot of that is still projection. He's got a ton of talent, but he hasn't put it together in winning ways and meaningful ways for us to I think, really elevate him in that sense. I think you could say he's at the top of the B tier, that next in line, right, to get up to the A tier potentially. But he definitely is going to get you to the playoffs. He's uber talented, but still more to be had from him, I think.
Yeah, there's definitely more to be had from Justin Herbert. So I feel like he's kind of in the right range with the Dak Prescotts, the Matt Staffords, the Trevor Lawrences in that B tier range. Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, and then finally, Mitch, last, certainly not least, Patrick Mahomes up at the S tier. And listen, I think Patrick Mahomes proved last season that he is in a tier of his own. I think after the season before, after he lost in the AFC Championship game to Joe Burrow, and Joe Burrow got to the Super Bowl, and everyone wanted to hype up Josh Allen, and we all believed that the Bills in 2022 were going to be that team. We started to have, there was so much of, is it Allen and Mahomes? Is Burrow in this conversation? It's not just Mahomes up there. He's really, really good, but look at all these other guys are also really, really good. And those guys are still really, really good, but Mahomes is the guy. He is the pinnacle. He is the top. He proved it last year. They win a Super Bowl. And a year after they traded away their best offensive weapon and were supposed to take a step back, seemingly, he does not. He wins another MVP, his second of his career, and wins the Super Bowl. I think Mahomes proved last year that he is in a tier in his own. And I'm not saying the gap is huge between him and Allen and him and Burrow or Hurts or Rodgers or anybody else for that matter, but he is clearly in a tier above his own. And until one of these other guys, Mitch, until one of these young guys like Allen, like Burrow, like Hurts, like Lamar, or anybody else who wants to challenge for this, unless one of them wins a ring, they cannot be in the same tier of Patrick Mahomes, in my opinion. Unless one of them proves that they can be good enough to win that Super Bowl and put it all together and be at the top of this league, you can't put him in the same tier as Mahomes. That's how I feel right now. So that's why I felt like he had to be up there at the S tier all by his lonesome.
Well, I guess it's a good thing I chose Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills to win the Super Bowl this year. So
he could be there. So we could talk about him up there. Absolutely.
No one circles the wagons quite like the Buffalo Bills. Let's go, Josh Allen. So, yeah, no, I get it. He's got the numbers, he got the accolades, he does all the right things, right? He's the highlight maker. He's got the numbers. He doesn't make the mistakes that a lot of those quarterbacks do. Other quarterbacks do. But, you look at those guys in the A tier, and I'll tell you what, they're not that far off of Pat Mahomes.
Of course not.
Not that far off whatsoever. If we're going to put him in the tier below, not that far off. Pat Mahomes is holding on to that S tier by a slim margin, I guess, in my book. But
fair enough. All righty, that is our tier ranking of all 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL next season. Sans a couple potential, differences here and there if guys start, but and a couple extras to cover our bases on like Tampa and San Francisco. But there you go. I feel pretty good about that tier list, Mitch.
Yes,
pretty much everyone in good spots.
And I feel like we knew that we were going to have a lot of people kind of in the middle tiers.
Oh yeah.
Like we were going to have very few people towards the top or the bottom, and then at the very tippy tops and the tippy bottoms, we were going to have those one or two people. So felt like a good list for us. So
poor Baker at the bottom there.
Poor
Hate
Baker.
to see it for the man.
Poor Baker.
Somebody had to to take up a residency in that tier though. So I mean, appreciate him for being willing to take the spot.
I guess so. Yeah.
He didn't have a choice. Yeah. There you go. That's our tier list. Thanks. If you're watching live, you get to see this on the screen. That's awesome. If you're listening to the podcast, jump on the YouTube at youtube.com/the Sports Hour, guys, so that you can check out the tier list itself, the visual of it, where we had everybody as you were listening along. So there you go. That's it for the tier list, Mitch. And that's all we got for the podcast today. So pretty fun podcast as always. If you don't already, folks, you want to check out the socials, follow the TikTok at the Sports Hour Guys, follow the Instagram at the Sports Hour Guys. And then again, every Wednesday night, we're going live on YouTube at youtube.com/the Sports Hour Guys. On Twitter, you can follow us at Sports Hour Guys and join live into the conversation. Let us know your thoughts as we go through. If anyone's watching live now and had thoughts on the QB tier list, is somebody in the wrong tier? Did we, just completely mess something up? Let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you. Mitch, tell people where they can get the podcast.
You can get the podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. That is Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts. If you look up the Sports Hour Guys, you will find us there. Get on Apple Podcasts, leave us a rating and review. Tell us that we suck, because Dallen, that is the only way that we can get better.
It is the only way that we could get better. And we really want to do that. So please let us know. Again, check out the website, thesportshourguys.wordpress.com. I'll have my 5 college quarterbacks to watch in 2023 article up there tomorrow on June 1st. So you can read that when that's dropped, in all the content that we'll have coming up in the future. So that's pretty much it. You hear the music. It's time to wrap it up. It's time to get out of here. We appreciate you hanging around. It's always fun, Mitch. It's always fun. So until next time, we love you. We appreciate you, and we will catch you next week.
So long, everybody, and a very pleasant good evening to you, wherever you may be. See ya.